Okay, I'm here with Solstice, and I would urge you, if you haven't done already, is to take advantage of that wonderful link I put under the review to download the introduction to Solstice. It's 70 minutes of music for virtually the price of a cup of coffee, really. It's an absolute bargain. The link is below this interview, and that kind of leads into my first question, which is for Andy Glass. Is how did you go about collating this? I mean, was it difficult deciding what to leave off?
Um, Not, I wouldn't say so. I mean, I just went through each album, thought, what's my favourite track at the moment? Obviously that's prone to change, and thought, yeah, let's put that one on there. And I did take the time to remaster it, and I think particularly Circles, which is a 1996 album, which sounds a bit crusty, I have to say.
Mm.
But actually benefited quite a lot from a remaster. So it sounds quite nice. The tracks sound good, and I just picked the favourites. So yeah, it didn't take long really, to be quite honest.
I mean, do you think you feel that from the back of that might lead to a wider remastering program with Solstice?
Yeah, well, yes, because GP, our label, are very keen to do it's a sort of box set stuff because all the previous CDs, all of them, um, prior to Sheer, have long since sold out, long since gone. And, several of them have been reissued in various formats over the years, but there's just nothing, and you can't get, I don't have any. And Steve, you don't have any. So, so GP are quite keen to do a kind of 3 volume, like a real nice box, which is empty, and then volume one comes along and you put that in a box, and then volume two and volume three, and then and we're talking about a Blu-ray, a live Blu-ray. So
For each
and so
album, or
I'm sorry.
for a live Blu-ray for each album, or is this a
No,
separate?
no, sorry, a live a concert video, a
Oh
concert
wow!
film, and so yeah, and it's just really do a beautiful packaging of the whole of the back catalogue because people can't get it. So yes, the answer is yes. So things will be remastered. I mean, the only thing that I didn't remaster, because out of respect and because it sounds incredible, is the Stephen Wilson remix of Find Yourself. He remixed a few tracks from the original multi-track tapes from our debut album, Silent Dance, and who would remaster a Stephen Wilson track? Not me, that's for sure.
No, you leave that one alone. I think is
Damn right.
Jess, I've got to congratulate you on making Prog Readers poll. I think you were number 4 or something like that. Was that right?
Yeah, that's right. It's
I mean, it
well,
must
I
it must
just
be thrilling.
actually am still kind of more than thrilling. I genuinely still don't have the words to explain. Like I remember Andy sharing on Friends of Solstice. Oh, it would be really great to see Jess's name on there. Not thinking anything of it. I think neither of us were really thinking anything of it. It was just really nice that Andy put my name forward, and even more astonishing that people did put my name forward, and I'm mentioned among some fantastic women. So
Yeah.
I'm just honored, really.
Well, the band did so well. I mean, you've got Andy Glass rubbing shoulders with Steve Hackett and Steve Rothery, and the band generally.
Mhm.
And I mean, did you envisage having such an impact on this band when you joined?
No, nor that they'd have an impact on me. So it's just one of those things that it's working. Both ways, that it is this incredible family and relationship and
Mhm.
journey.
Yeah. I said in my review that you seem to have a bit of a, it's probably my cloth ears really, but you seem to have almost a Gaelic lilt to your voice. You're probably from Shropshire or something like that. I don't know. Any
No,
Irish or Scottish?
no, none. I think that's just how I sing. I'm not even, I wasn't born in England. I came here when I was 10, so I don't know where I get it from. I
Oh,
just
okay.
I just sing, and whatever comes out,
Well,
I'll
you
take Gaelic.
well, your voice sounds absolutely. It certainly suits the music. I think this band have really um, uh, pushed forward. I think in the last couple of albums. Stephen, you've been with the band since '96. What are the biggest changes you've seen? Sorry, I can't read my own writing. Can you? That's one for my best. That's one for my best of videos. Stephen, you've been with the band since '96. What are the biggest changes you've seen, and how do you feel the band has enjoyed I think a surge, I think, since the Sheer album? See, I got it right then.
It's absolutely extraordinary. I mean, yes, actually, I'm afraid it was '95. It was such a long time ago.
Oh, see, Andy Glass told me it was '96, you said.
Yeah, there you go. But, and it, yeah, I mean, even joining in '95 was like the beginning of my music career. It really was, it was like a sudden step up out of anything I'd ever done before to this extraordinary height. It's like, this is, at that point, it was wonderful. We went around Europe doing all these different amazing gigs with, because we had, at the time, we had Clive Bunker in the band, didn't we? Who was the drummer from, the original drummer from,
Jethro
Tull. Yes, of course, yeah. And so we did a lot of Jethro Tull conventions, and it was fantastic. But I was young then, and then Solstice went down just stopped for a few years, and then came back in 2006, I think. And since 2006, it's been a lovely event. Once a year, we all get together and do some great gigs, another album, perhaps. Wonderful experience. But most highlight of my life for those as we moved along through those years. And then suddenly, 2020, Jess joins.
Right.
We have lockdown, and the bloody thing's taken off. I mean, it's unbelievable. We're like, suddenly, I mean, I'm 66. I'm not 60. I'm 63, okay. And I'm suddenly a rock star. I can't believe it.
Well,
a band that gets voted 3 out of 4 things on Prog magazine. No, it's just extraordinary. And if I always have, Solstice has always had a most incredibly special place in my life, because it is an amazing thing. It's something above and beyond, that thing about being more than the sum of its parts. It's an extraordinary thing that's been going on all the way through. I just can't get over how wonderful it is. And all of a sudden, just times that by 10 for the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm really looking at the band now, and it's just a completely different thing.
Yeah, it certainly seems to have taken off anyway, I think, in the last few years.
When sometimes you're on stage, I'm on stage sometimes, and I look over at what's going on the rest of the stage, and it's just like, you have to pinch myself. It's just incredible. The energy and the amount, the power that's going on. And then you look at the audience, and they're clearly having the same experience. That's just beautiful, honestly.
Yeah. Andy, the new album, this one, Light Up. I read, I think it was on Prog Review or something, that it's supposed to be part of a trilogy, which is interesting. I just wonder, do you see there any kind of thematic connection between the 3 albums? Is there a thread that joins them, or is it mainly artwork?
There isn't a third album. Yeah, I mean, it purely exists in my imagination. I mean, the thing is that Sheer obviously is a turning point for the band, and then I'm working with Jess and the rest of the band on the material. But I mean, obviously, the key to the change is Jess's input, incredible kind of creative input and vocal performance, and then Light Up is a continuation of that, and also an expression of being together for a couple of years. I mean, Sheer was like, Jess hadn't even met the band. She recorded the album without meeting the band. Me and Jenny and Jess had known each other for years, but the rest of the band she hadn't met. So we're now 2 years into that relationship, and of course it's much stronger, and we've developed hugely as a unit, and Jess is far more embedded in her role and confident about what she's doing. So Light Up is a progression in that sense, and I think you commented on in your review that it sounds more organic. And that's the result of that, and also a result of the fact that we were able to work together in the same space rather than remotely, across the internet, which is what we had to do for Sheer. So it makes sense that Light Up sounds more organic, and I don't know why the trilogy thing appeals, but it just seems to me that to encapsulate this particular phase in the band, it needs a third album, you know, to complete that trilogy. And I've no idea, you know, what it'll be or how it'll sound, but it'll certainly. I just feel like kind of 4 or 5 years, that's enough time for us to mature as a unit and for us to really explore what we can do, which I think we've definitely, you know, progressed with that with Light Up. We've moved to a kind of new level and a new space, and I mean, I feel more. I was really concerned that we wouldn't be able to follow up Sheer. You know, I thought maybe we've just spent all our energy and our ideas on that, but I mean, Light Up's proved that not to be the case, and I think that Jess is shaking her head, and I think that the next album, we're really going to nail it. You know, it's that kind of, because for me it feels like a completely new thing that we're doing here, and it's that old thing of the third album. You know, that's when you get it right. You know.
Well, I played
some of those bands, thinking back to some of my favourite bands, you know, the third album, that's when they really kind of start hitting the spot. Right. So I love the idea of a trilogy, and I love the idea of it being kind of visually linked, because we're working with Sean Blake, who did the design for the two albums so far. So a visual link, and I think it will just kind of, in a way, it'll bookend this. You know, this is all fantasy, man, you know, but it'll sort of bookend this phase in the band's career, and then we'll move on to the really good shit, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I may, I mean, there may not be a thematic connection, but you could say there's an exploration of a specific atmosphere.
Yeah.
It started with Sheer, includes this one, and perhaps we'll continue with the third album. But I certainly look forward to hearing that. And also envisage a nice sort of special deluxe little box set as well, with lots of Blu-ray extras, and of course you'll be hitting the big time by the third time the third album comes out, I think.
Nice idea, Barry. Yeah, we'll repackage it, and I'll credit you for the idea.
Oh yes, that's a good idea. Stephen, I'm just interested. How comfortable are you with the term progressive rock? Do you think it sits nicely with the band Solstice? And as a keyboard player in a progressive rock band, do you have a mellotron tucked away anywhere?
In my computer.
That's cheating.
Now, it's just full. It's so full of instruments that you'd need 4 or 5 trucks to carry it around. Seriously.
Yeah.
So it's all done with smoke and mirrors. It's incredible. But the mellotron's in there.
Who said we were a prog band anyway, Steve?
Say. Yeah,
we were a prog band. Sorry,
I've got to say that I listen. I'm not really fired up by very much modern prog that I hear. I've got to be honest. You know, now and then, but mainly it's not really where I sit personally. Solstice seems to be something else than that, and I reckon that Solstice. I mean, I've got a lot of friends who have wide-ranging tastes in music. Yeah. But there isn't any of them that turn around to say, "Oh, that's Solstice load of rubbish." You know, they're all into Solstice in a big way, and even my kids, and now my grandkids, starting to get into it. I mean, they're hardly prog rock aficionados, are they? So it's because it's actually, I think to a great extent it defies categorization because but the main thing is it's just full of melody, and it's full of harmony, and it's full of weird rhythms, and it's full of joy. It's full of joy, and I've got to say that a lot of modern prog really isn't full of joy, is it? You know, you've got to admit.
Well, I find Solstice that I mean, progressive rock seems to be the pigeonhole that seems most convenient, but I think there's a lot more going on there. And I know progressive rock is a broad church, so to speak, but Solstice, I can't really, not that you need to be pigeonholed, I suppose, but I just can't really put my finger on how I would define your music if I was having to explain it to somebody. I'm just wondering how you felt about the label progressive rock. It seems to be the one that's thrown at you.
Yeah, I'm worried about it, got to be honest.
Well, I mean...
You'll be wearing capes next.
I'm way ahead of you there.
I mean, it's great to be embraced by the prog rock audience, because they're an incredible audience, you know, and they are we wouldn't be here without them, to be honest, you know, so that's fantastic. But I do think you know, we really back in the day, we really didn't like being given that label by the media, because we never considered ourselves really in that category. And I think, I mean, there's obviously a kind of a folky element in there, and I mean that was last year. Now we
funky element as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we played our first folk festival.
Okay.
And it was really, really well received, you know. So I think that we can cross these borders of genre, and as Steve says, you know, that the people that typically, the thing that worries me about the label, to be perfectly honest, is that some people, if it's presented under that label, they won't listen to it. And I think that's a real shame. It's a great shame, because, as you said, Barry, you know, actually the progressive thing is a very broad church, you know. And I mean, I've been listening a lot to Exploring Birdsong. Have you come across that band? So Lindsay Wade was another in the top 10 vocalists, actually. And you know, I can see why, you know, they use interesting rhythms and so on, but you know, they lean kind of more towards the Paramore side of things. And then actually this kind of Celtic-y vocal melodic thing that's going on, they're really interesting, you know. I certainly wouldn't go, oh, that's a prog band. And so it can be that's the only concern, I suppose, is that people that would probably enjoy the music may not listen simply because of the label, which is a shame.
Yeah, I mean, I said the whole progressive rock label with Solstice, I just feel that the band is doing a lot more than you know. But again, progressive rock is I mean, class ELO as progressive rock, you know, which I think might be stretching it a bit personally, but there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned in your review a James Brown thing, you know. And I mean, the thing is, collectively as musicians, we love so much different music, you know, and we want to play. And I think gradually we're letting that, you know, these last two albums, that those other interests of ours are seeping in a little bit more, even more than they have previously. And so, you know, my vibe is let's just let that go, you know. I mean, yeah, I mean, absolutely. These last two albums, for me personally, from a writing point of view, I've not been in any way aiming it at anyone other than ourselves, you know. Yeah. So we'll see where it goes.
Jess, I've got to ask you, actually, there's a track on the new album. I hold the new album up for my subscribers only. That's the new album. It's Light Up. It's fabulous artwork, which continues the same theme from the Sheer album. And there will be, I will put a purchasing link. There you go. This is a Sheer album, and this would look stunning on vinyl, I would imagine, if it comes out on vinyl. Is there plans for a vinyl issue of this?
Of course. Of course. It was actually planned to be on vinyl. That's why.
Oh, the timing on it as well is perfect. I mean, that's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, with the 6 tracks, the sun and moon side, you can hear as you listen through the album that there is a more energetic, like, burst and light and energy, and then there's the more mellow kind of like calm down from all of the energy and the grooves. Big grooves on side A, on sun side.
So with the two sides, sun and moon, you're exploring these textures. Do you think you're maybe sailing perilously close to a concept album?
Okay, it's Prog.
It's Prog. It is Prog.
Boxed us in. We've been boxed in. That's fine.
I gotcha.
That's nail in the coffin, isn't it? Oh, God.
Rumbled.
Who do we think we are? Who do we think we are?
Now look, if you want a Prog album, sorry. Here's the concept album. We've done it. We've done it. We've got the T-shirt, and no more concept albums.
Does that come as a T-shirt?
Yes, it does. In large, medium, or small. Okay.
I'll put a purchasing link just below this video for that as well.
I mean, I'm wearing my Italy T-shirt.
Oh my God!
It's yeah. It's got to be done.
Oh, what a gig that was.
It was incredible.
Look what I got for Christmas.
Oh yeah.
I've got a mug to go with it as well.
Okay. Anyway, the question I was going to ask, Jess, was
Sorry,
about
Barry.
like Mount Ephraim. Is it Mount? Have I said it right? Mount Ephraim?
Ephraim.
Ephraim, sorry, I beg your pardon. I read somewhere that it was actually inspired by the performance at the New Day Festival. Why was that? What was so inspirational about that performance?
I'm gonna direct that straight at Andy because I didn't write it. I just do all the singing, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that was part of a complex deal, actually. so when we wrote A New Day for Shia, we were obviously we did play a New Day festival, which is at Mount Ephraim.
That's organised by David Rees, isn't it?
Organised by the legend that is David Rees. Yeah,
he's the Jethro Tull guy, isn't he?
Yes, he is, and it was actually Dave that his it's also a record label and not so active now, but in the past it was. It was Dave that put out initially a reissue of the first two albums on his label, and then Circles in the mid-90s. So I've got a long history with Dave. But anyway, we played there in 2019, which was obviously before Jess had joined, when Emma was still singing in the band. And then, of course, it didn't happen in 2020. So, but we've written this song A New Day. So I said to Dave, look, mate, we've written you a song. Check it out. It's called A New Day. You need to book us for 21, you know. Which he went, oh, yeah, sure you did, you know, for sure. But hey, let's book you anyway. So, and then after the show, which was great, which we thoroughly enjoyed, I said to him, okay, so how do what do I need to do to get a gig next year? And he said, oh, well, write me the Ballad of David Rees and I'll think about it, you know. So Mount Ephraim obviously is a kind of tribute to the festival. And if you listen to the lyrics, to be honest, it's a tribute to any festival, really. You know, it's about that gathering of people and that experience of enjoying each other's company and enjoying music. And so, but it is dedicated specifically to a New Day festival. And so I sent him the demos and I said, yeah, is this working for you? You know, have we got the gig or what? So and of course we did get the gig. So really the song is just a way of getting into a festival, and I recommend it to other bands. You know, if they need a specific festival, you know, write a song for the promoter. Make sure it's a good one.
I used to go down to Kent to a festival called that was called the Rambling Man. I don't remember that festival. I don't think it exists anymore. I think it's defunct now, isn't it? I think it's finished. But that was a lovely festival. But in the same sort of neck of the woods as well, I think, as the New Day Festival.
Yeah, I mean, we've since the very beginning, we've been very festival orientated band. I mean, that's the places we've always loved to play. So and nothing's changed about that. And we've just been announced for Property this year, and that is a festival. Convention. Yeah. And that's that's a festival we've wanted to play. We have actually played it in '98. We played it because a lot of this stuff is who you know, right? And we had with Clive Bunker in the band, you know, it opens a lot of doors, including the one to Fairport Convention. So we did some gigs together, and Peggy needed a light on the plane on the way back because you could still smoke those days. And I said, well, give us a gig at Property and I'll give you a light. And he said, yeah, sure, no problem. So we did that in '98, and it was amazing. And we were not, half the band that we are now. So I'm really, really thrilled that we're going to be going back there again. And it's it's an opportunity for us to play to a lot of people that won't have heard us. Yeah. So that's just really exciting. But we just love doing festivals, and well, Jess is wearing the Veruno Festival shirt. I mean, that was a real career highlight for us all, I think.
Yeah. Well, I've got my list to come back to Andy, but I was going to ask you about the song "Light Up" specifically, and what is the meaning of the message behind that one?
It's an expression of positivity, you know. I
That's
mean,
what it feels like anyway. Doesn't it?
yeah. I mean, I just feel so incredibly optimistic and fired up and excited to be playing with this band. You know, it's and I can't say enough about Jess and what an incredible musician she is, an incredible person to work with. And you know, that has just, oh man, that's been life changing. And that song is how the whole thing makes me feel.
Good, excellent. I mean, talking about Jess, I was going to ask you. Andy said that he often sends you kind of the raw files of these songs, and you embellish them and kind of mold them into specifically into Jess-ness, shall we say, by adding these vocal lines. I mean, um, so what is that process? How do you approach taking these files and then actually making them into almost the finished product?
Um, First off, going with my gut. I
Okay.
think it's always, I think what I noticed I was doing more with this particular album was actually sitting and listening with it and not kind of like pulling it apart, but more getting used to singing it rather than like there were times in Sheer that I'd listen to it, then I'd sing it, and then it was almost like a call and response. Like, oh, I can hear this, I'll do it, and then work my way through the track. Whereas this time it was listen to it, sing it how I would, it feels right, and then I can hear like harmonies in my head, and I can feel moments of pushing and pulling, and so it's almost like an instrument if you think about it, how the voice is. So it's just, oh, I want it to rise here, I want it to fall here, I want it to be like another layered part, or do I want to kind of hold it back and kind of support other instruments? So it's a feeling,
Yeah.
and then it's also knowing when it's appropriate as well, because we could have just like stacked vocal harmonies all the way through it, but it's not then effective.
Yeah.
Like I think what's helped with Sheer and Light Up being so cohesive together is that I haven't, the kind of weaving and the textures aren't lost. We haven't just gone, well, we've done it in Sheer, we're not going to do it in Light Up. We definitely like utilized it in Light Up, but I feel like I always go back and listen to it, like Andy says, which is maybe in another interview, like Andy doesn't listen to his own music. Whereas I have it in my car and it's, in the CD player. And when you listen through the album, it doesn't feel like, oh, it's another harmony again. Like there are the moments that it needs to be there.
Yeah.
And then there are moments where it doesn't need to be there. And I think,
yeah, you're really good at seeing that, because when we're in the studio together and Jess is like layering these things up, I'm going, oh my god, that's incredible, keep going, do some more, and Jess is like, no, or let's harmonize this bit as well because it just sounds so incredible. No, so Jess knows she knows what she wants to hear, and I think that in Light Up, there's much more of you in it, actually, in a way. Much more of your character comes through for me. I mean, Sheer is beautiful, but Light Up, it's like I can really hear you. Your character, and you know what I'm saying? Because after all, you've had some time to get into it, and also we were able to work together, which we couldn't do before. It was literally just bouncing files, and that's difficult.
It's interesting what you were saying, Jess, about hearing kind of this gut feeling of the vocal parts. I'm reminded of I read Brian Wilson's autobiography when he was writing California Girls on the piano. He saw the melody appearing kind of in the air in front of him. Mind you, he was on copious amounts of LSD as well. He was quite famed for it, I think. But and it's like another song, the Beach Boys, God Only Knows, I think one of the most beautiful songs ever.
Oh, wow!
He said he wrote it so quickly, and it just almost threw away, really. But I mean, even McCartney says that's one of the most beautiful pop songs ever written.
I think that is as well what we can do a recording session in a day and finish a vocal take in a day, and it's one of those things that I can hear it, and then it's Andy kind of sitting at the computer and me going, right, here's the other one, and then like singing through and adding that line, and then Andy going, right, are we going to move on? I was like, no, but I can hear another one that I'm going to add on top as well. And he's like, okay. It is this kind of like trust your gut, the spontaneous kind of where is it going, and knowing when to stop, and then it just helps.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was curious to how all sort of answers my questions about the sort of process, the sort of writing processes that you guys go through. But I mean, I have to ask Stephen, really. I mean, how do you feel about your contributions to this album? What is your favorite moment from a kind of keyboard perspective?
Very good question, actually. I think in this particular case, actually, Andy, in Sear, there was a lot of space that I had to fill. But in Light Up, there was many more sort of keyboard ideas originally. So, in fact, Jess pointed out that what you just said there about having to listen. I've had to take things apart, because often buried in what seems like a very simple keyboard part that will arrive, you know, there's something really important. There'll be melodies in there or something that I have to kind of really work on. So I found I've had to pin down exactly what Andy's trying to do, you know, because as he's not a keyboard player, I assume, I'll get things that are really like unusual, and I have to think, hang on a minute, what's actually going on there? And other things that will sound incredibly easy to play, and actually they're impossible. You know, so, but yeah, so it's. I think the one I've probably contributed mostly to was Mount Ephraim. I think that was the one that there's a. But the process is an interesting one. I find that I'll work on things and throw loads of things at Andy, and not know which one he'll go for. And then when it comes back, it's like, oh, you like that? Okay, fine, we'll work on that. You know.
Well, I played about 10 minutes of this album to my wife the other day, and she really enjoyed it. So I've actually put it on her desk to listen to more of it.
So you mean the first song, right?
Well, it was the first song. We got about 10 minutes into it. We were dismantling all the Christmas stuff, and my daughter came down and insisted she wanted to watch Bluey on TV or something. It's a children's program. That usually means that I have to turn my music off usually. But so we got about 10 minutes in before she came down. But I'm going to put it here, my wife to explore further.
Excellent. I'm sorry I'm interrupting, but can I just go back to the keyboard parts, and it's the same with the vocal parts, actually. You know, the bits that excite me most are the bits that I never imagined and had nothing to do with. So, you know, I mean, there's a couple of Mount Ephraim, as you mentioned. You know, there's like, you know, it'll be, you know, a rough demo, and Steve comes back with this funky clav part, completely unexpected, you know, and brilliant, and works brilliantly. And in Wongle, there's this super funky key Rhodes part. You know, it's those kind of things, and the things that Jess does with the songs, you know, is just turn around these little ideas that she has. They're just moments of magic, you know, and that's the stuff that makes the difference for me. You know,
what exactly is a Wongle, and what's so special about the 9th one?
You should have had the 8, honestly. You didn't have the first 8 Wongles.
Yeah, who wants a discarded Wongle, man? It's about as bad as it gets. But no, what it is you know, when you come up with an idea that is normally something very, you know, just a very rough little idea. If you're using a computer, you've got to save the file as something, right? So I mean, I just save it as whatever comes into my head, or quite often they're called things like 7/8, funky 5/4, you know. And this one was called
Taka, which is what Mount Ephraim was originally.
Taka, yeah, you know. and and Wongles just one of those ones that stuck. You know, just,
It's an Andyism, is it?
yeah, and what a great word. You know, I just love that word, Wongle. You know, I don't know if no, it's nothing to do with woggle. Remember, you know, when I was a Boy Scout, I had a Boy Cub Scout, whatever they're called.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
You had a woggle, but it's nothing to do with that. So I don't even know why that came into my head. But Wongle, yeah, and of course, and Wongle number 9. That was the version that we finished with.
Yeah. So I'm thinking Wombles, and I'm thinking number 9 equals number 9.
No,
Way overthinking it. Way overthinking.
Wombles, Woggles. No, that's entirely wrong. It's completely different.
We were discussing the album track names on our way to Italy, and that was one that on the plane, because you know, the thing is that so many of the tracks were oddly named, so it's kind of like, what are we going to actually call this? And it was just quite entertaining that Andy and I both said Wongle is sticking though. Like we need to change them, but Wongle is remaining Wongle number 9.
I mean, it's such a funk thing as well, you know, and Wongle is a funk term. Well, it is now.
Okay.
Wongle, wonky.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
number. Not even in 9.
No,
No.
it's nothing to do with 9. But of course, you know, it's a Beatles thing, right? Number 9.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Okay, what question? Can I read my own writing? Oh yes, Jess. After the Sheer album, I always feel Sheer had a kind of a very textured feel, especially in relation to the vocals. But with this album, I said in my review that it feels more organic, almost as if you could be in the room listening to you guys playing it. It doesn't feel as affected. I don't know if that's the right word for it. Was it a conscious effort on your part to maybe sort of present the vocals in a slightly different way?
It was recorded differently. We used I didn't there was only just one mic that was used in Sheer, and it was in quite a cold room, whereas the room that Andy sat in that video was where we recorded all of Light Up, and we used 2 mics, and we double track everything as well. And I think the main difference is that I have now done a year of like singing a lot, so I think my voice is changing, you know, it just actually organically, and like I can actually can't maybe hit higher notes, but I'm learning about control, and it is an age thing, and I think it's also like a reacting to like what the song is, like knowing like how to sing it, where to place my voice. And then the final thing I think is, which is most important, is at the end of the day, Andy writes the song and I'm interpreting them. But because of where Andy is writing, like the key and where it sits in my vocals, that really changes. So I noticed that as the process of Sheer was being recorded, that like Andy would check like, oh, this works really well. And then as Light Up came through with all of these songs, you know, I was listening to them and going, oh, okay, that works really well and everything. Actually, there was quite a big issue with Mount Ephraim when we started playing it.
Yeah.
I used to think that it was too high, and I'd always be like, oh, I'm not comfortable where it sat. But actually, where it sat is like the perfect kind of almost breaking point of my voice, which really kind of, with the whole energy of this particular song, like it's relentless. The amount of people who come away from that, like watching us play it, and they're like, we don't know how to take this. Like it never, like from the moment Jenny starts playing to the end, it's like just one kind of overwhelming, maybe people will dance to this song one day. I'm going to be singing and I'm going to see people actually dancing. This is another side note, a problem with Prog. Everyone just watches and I'm like, oh, they have a good time. They're like, we're having a good time. I'm like, I can't see anyone dancing. So I have to like suck in everyone's energy and do all the dancing myself with our two backing singers who thankfully have as much energy as I do.
Yeah.
But Matt Ephraim, there's a harmony. You can hear a harmony when you listen to the track again. That the harmony is what I used to want to sing. And Andy would sing the main line. And then Andy was like, I don't want to sing the main line anymore. You're going to sing it. And one of the backing singers can sing the backing line. And I was like, okay. So this kind of energy, this breaking point, this kind of yearning that this song has about meeting someone in a place again, which I can like is about a festival, but it also for me is very much like coming back together after COVID. Like what I'm noticing is that I'm meeting up with friends and family members who I haven't seen 2+ years, and I'm like, there's just something about missing one another that has become even more powerful like recently. So that song really kind of like amps it up even more for me, that I am almost crying when I sing this song as well.
Wow.
Very much don't show that, but I have to hold back a lot of like the words are very powerful. And so the singing, where it's placed in my voice, it's all very like angsty and yearning.
Yeah, I mean, talk about
you've had to learn to sing with this band, to front this band, and to sing and project over this, you know, huge sound. And and
Everyone's so loud.
Yeah, everyone's so loud. But that's what you've done over 2 years, and your voice has evolved to, you know, to sit in that place, and it's incredible. So when I hear you singing, you know, live tracks from Sheer, you know, I mean, your voice sounds just incredible now. You know, I mean, it sounded incredible on that, but now, you know what I'm saying? You know, you've had a chance now to gig that stuff and really find how you want to sing it, and find the right way to sing it in a live setting. And I think that has then informed your approach to Light Up. You know, the fact that you've sung at huge festivals fronting this band for a couple of years, and now you know, and that informs the way you sing on the album. Man, it's so good. It's just
funny.
so good.
It's funny. Lemmy always used to say that he needed to drink a bottle of scotch a day and 20 Marlborough to maintain his voice at that quality, really. You know, so
no excessive drinking or smoking for me.
Well, it's very bad for your voice.
Just trying to sing over Andy's guitar and.
Well, you know, it's interesting you talk about things being too loud. I mean, I read Roger Daltrey's biography, and he says the Who Live at Leeds gig is not his favorite. It's so loud that he found it difficult as a vocalist. It's difficult to project your voice over that sheer volume, really. So he complained about the band playing too loud, but
and it's not just about voice volume. It's about a whole presence. You know, it's about having that presence to project above it, you know, and I mean, your presence live, Jess, is thrilling, right, Steve? You know, am I right? You know, I mean, it lifts the whole band, and now, yeah, with Ebony and Jen as well, you know, they're kind of, everyone's firing each other up. I mean, it's phenomenal. Long may it continue.
Absolutely. Stephen, I've got to ask you, actually, I had the pleasure of speaking to Mark Kelly from Marillion a while ago, and he told me that Rick Wakeman's Journey to the Center of the Earth was the album that kind of turned him on to want to play keyboards. What was that album for you?
Oh, actually, I'm afraid it wasn't an album.
Okay.
It turned me on to playing keyboards in the first place. It was joining a church choir when I was about 11, and the organ playing in the church. You know, we had a proper organist, a very good organist actually.
Is that your Sunday job now? Is it?
No, I'm afraid it isn't. I can't actually play classical music at all. But which is odd, isn't it? Because that's where it started, and that's what I love as well. But
what is your favourite keyboard album then? What is your favourite keyboard-centered album that you perhaps enjoy?
Oh, you've thrown me. Do you know what? This is the funny thing. I'm not sure it's.
You're not a big fan of Rick Wakeman's stuff and
Well,
things
Rick
like
Wakeman was in the early days. I loved Yes when I was a
that. You're getting back
teenager.
to prog now, aren't we?
Yeah, that's right. And of course, Rick Wakeman was part of that. And I liked Rick Wakeman in Yes more than anything else that I've ever heard him do. I've got to be honest. You know, Journey to the Centre of the Earth. I remember I've got the album somewhere knocking around, and it's cool. But
This is true of so many great musicians, isn't it? Their greatest work is with part of a, incredible creative unit.
yes, and I think that's
And their solo stuff can never really, I mean, they're phenomenal, but their solo stuff can rarely, if ever, live up to the collective work that they've done.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, later on, I got into Chick Corea and all those kind of jazzy people,
No,
but
wow.
yeah, actually, I'm sorry to say, I haven't got an immediate answer to that because
That's
I think
okay.
actually, it's not about for me. It's not really about keyboards. It's about music in general, and
Right.
I think that's the point. That there's, and I think with a keyboard, other than the fact that it's nice to have a keyboard that you can funk over,
Yeah, yeah.
I like that. Lots of funky keyboard is cool, but really, the keyboard is an instrument. What I also like about the keyboard is that I can emulate other instruments. I can be an orchestra if I want to be, or I can be, I could be percussion. Sometimes it's, I like the fact that it's a compositional tool that I love as well. The fact that you can do all those sorts of things, and so that can be my job. That's often my job at Solstice, to make all those weird noises in the background. Really.
Yeah, or to be incredibly funky. Which is to me is where your element lies, actually.
Yeah, sure it does.
So, that's why we're playing funk half the time. It's bloody British fault.
So you're to blame for all those James Brown that James Brown vibe to the album.
Yeah.
Well, Andy, actually, I've got to ask you a question. You're working on a track based on the life of Ada Blackjack. I'm just wondering why. And why you're doing that, and how is that coming along?
Yeah, well, actually, it was the first song I started working on after Sheer, very quickly after Sheer, just sort of continuing that. And it kind of didn't really, so I had the whole thing mapped out, but no kind of lyrical or really melodic content for a top line. So, and it just kind of, I played it to Jess, actually. She can't even remember it. That's how impressed she was with it. And, I played it to a couple of other people, and, I just thought, okay, well, let's just move on, and I left it, and then we wrote all the stuff for Light Up. But, well, now a friend, but a fan of the band from way back, brought the Ada Blackjack story to my attention. He's a very successful VFX guy, video effects guy in the industry, and he got interested in he's one of these guys that's also really interested in exploration, and these kind of historical, incredible expeditions that people have undertaken, and he said, there's the big ones like Shackleton, and all the rest of it. But he said that it's often the kind of these smaller, less well-known things that are most interesting to him. And one of them was the story of Ada Blackjack, who was a Inuit woman exactly 100 years ago, actually, who, it's a long story, but she was married to an English guy who abandoned her and her sick child in the middle of nowhere in Alaska, and she incredibly managed to walk the 80 miles back to the nearest civilization, which was Nome, which is a town of less than 1,000 people, but couldn't afford to care for her child. So she had to put the boy in an orphanage. She was brought up in a missionary school. So this is kind of post the gold rush that happened in Nome, actually. And she vowed to make enough money to be able to get him out of the orphanage and to care for him. And an opportunity arose with one of these. It was a sort of vanity project for an English explorer who had money but had sort of stopped exploring at that point, to to claim Wrangel Island, which is a small island between Alaska and Russia, for Britain.
Right.
That was the idea. So there was 4 guys on a boat, and they needed someone to come with them to sort of sew skins and make the tea and so on. And I think most of the native people were like, no, thanks, you know, but Ada needed money, and she was promised really good money to do it. So off they went, and very quickly one of the team fell ill. A year later, when the supply boat was supposed to come and take them off the island, they couldn't get through the ice. So the rest of the party left her with the sick guy and went off to try and find another way back. Were never seen again. The guy she was caring for died a little while later, and she ended up on her own, entirely on her own, in the middle of this totally desolate space. Had to sort of learn to survive, to hunt, and incredibly she survived. And when the ship came back a year later, so 2 years she'd been there, she got off the island and got home, and she was never paid properly by the guy who organised it, but she got enough money to get her son out of the orphanage, and, you know, lived a fairly long life, difficult circumstances. But read the book. But anyway, so Paddy Eason, who's the guy that put this story to me in the first place, has made a short film about her and is working on a pitch for a kind of longer series of a dramatized version. But anyway, I thought, wow, you know, this story of this incredible woman, you know, just extraordinary. And so, of course, that inspired me to try and make something of this song, the post-Shia song. And you know, Jess got into it, like the content, the idea.
Jess
and
is
then
writing as well, isn't she?
Sorry?
Isn't Jess writing this as well, or contributing?
Yeah, so this is the point. So Jess came over, and we started working on it together, and I mean, it was just incredible. I've got some video of it. Just incredible, just sitting watching Jess, because Jess can use, you know, the technology is fine. I'm just sitting there while she's on Logic, just trying stuff, building this track, doing all these incredible kind of harmonies and melodies. And so, you know, just took the idea, took it to a completely different level. Beautiful. It's come out as this beautiful song. So yeah, it is it's the first thing we've really co-written, I would say, you know. And it's actually, in its kind of demo form, was an exclusive track for everyone who pre-ordered Light Up. That's what we've done with it so far, but we've just actually literally just had the first sort of production meeting. So we plan to finish the track, you know, really kind of perfect it and put together a video this coming year. And it will probably be released as a single standalone song and video. But yeah, there it is, Ada Blackjack, incredible woman, well worth checking out. There's lots of interesting stuff about her online.
Well, I'll certainly look forward to the finished version of that track. And Jess, are you actually writing some of the lyrics to this? Have we lost sound?
No, sorry, I'm plugging in, the battery is going. I can't remember writing any lyrics. So I'm going to say no. I have not written any lyrics, but
I think it might be becoming the Lennon and McCartney of Solstice, the two of them.
Well, the thing is, sorry, I'll let you carry on, Jess, but back in the day, you know, I had a particular sort of creative partnership with Mark Elton, who was the fiddle player back, you know. And what's happened now, and this is part of what's so amazing for me about it, is that me and Jess have this, you know, similarly productive, creative, kind of intimate musical partnership. And I think, yeah, I think this song is kind of, and that is evolving over time. And this song probably represents the first sort of real kind of joint effort. You know, yeah, I wrote the lyrics based around the story, but the way it's turned out is very much, you know, credit to Jess.
Oh, wow.
Approach to it. So
it truly is. The story of this woman is very powerful. I think it's very different to like what Andrew's written before, because it kind of you kind of listen to any lyrics from Fear, Light Up, or any other albums, and it has this kind of, I don't know a better word for vagueness, but it allows you to interpret it your own way.
Yeah.
Whereas this particular song about Ada Blackjack and about her journey and about her child and about that she had a fear of polar bears and she lived on this island with polar bears. Like, that's crazy.
I think having a fear of polar bears is probably quite healthy, isn't it?
I mean, it is, sure, but like to be able to survive out there, it's just such an empowering story that I found that harder to sing, to emotionally invest myself in. The only time, I think there are two other times that's happened: Cheyenne and singing that chant for hours, and also Home, with the build up and those harmonies. And I don't think I could hit those notes anymore. It's like, again, that kind of breaking of the voice. But this particular song has such a strong story that I had to do it justice. There was no way. Like, there were takes and Andrew would be like, yeah, that's good, let's move on. I was like, that's good is not going to cut it at this point. Like, it has to be exactly how I can hear it in my head, and I have to almost envision myself and put myself in her shoe or her boots, and kind of, you know, kind of take the listener into her story in any way possible. The music does that, and it had to be that the vocals had to do the same thing.
Okay, well, it's a good note to end on, because it's on these, hopefully maybe that will reveal itself on the next album, possibly. But this album, Light Up, is available on is it the 13th of January? When's it available?
Yeah,
13th of January. That's a Wednesday, isn't it?
no, it's just Friday.
I was going to say, nobody releases things on a Wednesday, so it's a Friday, is it?
Yeah, apparently it has to be a Friday for Spotify or something like that. I don't know. Ask the record label.
Oh, Friday 13th. Ooh.
Well, this comes out Friday the 13th. Cue spooky music. Friday the 13th. And I will put a ordering link. I presume there's one on the band website that I can put under here. You don't want them going to Amazon or anything like that. Boo hiss. I'll put the ordering link for the band to buy this, and there is also that wonderful link below for you to be able to download the introduction to Solstice, which is 70 minutes of music for the price of a cup of coffee. So I urge you to do that. Thank you all for agreeing to do this. It's been wonderful chatting to you about Solstice and specifically this new album. Happy New Year to you all. And I look forward to some new music, and I will catch you live at some point.
Great. We'll send a limo round for you, okay?
Yeah. Oh well, no, I'll do it. I'll get out and I'll get to see you live at some point, I promise. Anyway, thank you all very much for doing this.
Thank you for having us, Barry. It's been a great honor and a pleasure.
Yes.
Thanks so much, mate. Thank you.
Okay.